Hello, my name is Father Lawrence Jagfeld. I am a Franciscan friar of the Sacred Heart Province, and I also serve as administrator of CUSA, an apostolate of persons with chronic illness and disability. This 20th Sunday of Ordinary Time, we will continue to read from the letter to the Hebrews, which we began last week. We are going to hear a series of readings from this letter, written to the Jewish community of Rome. Last week we heard the story of what Abraham accomplished by faith. That was in chapter 11. However, chapter 11 also includes many other Jewish people, many other characters from the Old Testament who also accomplished great deeds by faith. It includes people like Abel and Noah and Moses, the judges, and some of the prophets. It even speaks of unnamed individuals who persevered in their faith in God and accomplished great things. But the end of the chapter tells us that all of them had one thing in common, and that is that while they believed, they did not see the fulfillment of the promise that had been given to them. They persisted, they pursued, they persevered in their faith, but they did not realize the fulfillment of that faith because they never saw the promise, they never saw the advent of Jesus Christ. Today we pick up chapter 12 of that letter. Since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us rid ourselves of every burden and sin that clings to us, and persevere in running the race that lies before us, while keeping our eyes fixed on Jesus, the leader and protector of faith. For the sake of the joy that lay before him, he endured the cross, despising its shame, and has taken his seat at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider how he endured such opposition from sinners, in order that you may not grow weary and lose heart in your struggle against sin. You have not yet resisted to the point of shedding blood. This imagery of running a race is not uncommon to the New Testament. Although this letter is not written by Paul, Paul has used that imagery before. And so it is something that we should be somewhat familiar with. And this particular sacred writer tells us that as we run the race of faith, as we run the race of our lives, we need to keep our eyes fixed on Jesus. The finish line. Jesus is the finish line for us. Whenever I read this reading, I think not only of races such as we see in the Olympic Games, but I also think of the games that we see when we watch the Special Olympics, Olympics that are held for people who are disabled. One of the things that is particularly impressive about those games for me is that no matter when the person crosses the finish line, there is always somebody there to congratulate them, to embrace them, and to tell them that they have done a good job. Even if they haven't won the race, they receive this same reward of an embrace and congratulations. In some ways, I feel that what the writer here in the letter to the Hebrews is talking about is very much like that. Because no matter when we finish the race, no matter when we cross the line over into the next line, life, if we have our eyes fixed on Jesus, we can be sure that Jesus will be waiting for us with an embrace and congratulations. The writer goes on to tell us that we should strive, we should really work at this, much the same as an athlete has to really practice and prepare for the race. We have to be just as disciplined in our faith. But the reward that lies before us is the same reward that Jesus has won for himself. Now, at the very beginning of this reading, the writer talks about the great cloud of witnesses. And he is obviously referring to all of those people of whom he spoke in chapter 11. He groups them all together and he calls them a great cloud of witnesses. Again, the imagery is very striking for me because as I read this, I remember that these people were people who lived in a desert climate. And what could be more welcome in a desert climate than a cloud to shield us from the sun, from the burning rays, the heat of the desert? Indeed, our world can be compared to a desert when it comes to faith. It doesn't take a great deal of wisdom to realize that people of faith really do have a struggle in today's world. We are sometimes ridiculed for our faith, but more often than not, we are simply ignored. And being ignored is not fun for anyone. No one likes to be ignored, for whatever reason. But Jesus stands at the finish line as an insurance, as the assurance that those of us who persevere in faith, those of us who make sure that our faith is our priority, will receive the same reward that he received, the same joy that he received when he crossed the finish line as he died on the cross for our sins. So I personally find this reading to be one of great hope, one of great inspiration, and gives me a lot of motivation to continue in my faith, to persevere in my faith, to continue to witness in that faith. As we celebrate this weekend then, we do so mindful of the fact that while the world may be a hostile place when it comes to people of faith, we are gathered in an assembly, celebrating the Eucharist, with people of like mind, with people who share our faith. And it is there that we find our sustenance, it is there that we find our motivation, but it is also when we remember all those who have gone before us that we realize how important it is for us to continue in the faith. For more information about CUSA, please visit our website at www.cuson.org or look us up on Facebook.